So our next session, as I was mentioning to Adam, we've kind of had our portion of the program where we're looking at automation in more of a strategic way, getting into a more broad, but then also a very technical way with the PowerShell training. Now we're going to get into Ninja training. And so again, there's some of you here on the call, if you're new or if you got team members who are new to Ninja, the next session is going to be great for you. Immediately following that session on the next hour is going to be a more advanced session. So if you feel like you've already, the ropes and you're looking forward to the more advanced stuff, don't worry, that stuff's coming too. But I think without further ado, then we're going to hand it over to our presenter of that next session. He's our Senior Director of Product Marketing and Customer Marketing. It's Peter Bretton.
Hey, everybody. I'm super excited to be hanging out with you guys. You guys look like you're having a ton of fun.
We don't get to hang out that much. You're doing your webinars. I'm doing whatever this is. Anyway, it's good to see you.
Thanks. I think you guys are showing a lot more trust in our participants than our participants show in their end users. So hopefully the goodwill will pass on.
We'll see what was the wiser approach. Okay, I'll let you take it away, Pete. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a ton. I do want to highlight two things that Adam said that really stuck with me. One thing I always like to say as well is, start with the low-hanging fruit. Make the things that are easy, automated, and then build from there. And then I really liked how Adam positioned Ninja as an orchestration tool. And really, that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about right now is how you can use Ninja as that orchestration tool. As Jonathan just said, if you've been using Ninja for a couple of years, you really feel like you have automation down. This is really going to be your review. Pull me to the side, get some real work done. But if you're new to Ninja, or if you really don't feel that you fully understand the automation capabilities within Ninja, this is a great session to give you all the building blocks, right? I'm super excited for the next session where we're going to bring it all together and show you how to use it, all the automation Ninja offers in a more advanced way. But we want everyone to be working with the same set of tools, and this is really meant to be that introduction. I've only got, I think, 3 slides, and then we'll jump into Ninja, the platform. So we'll start from the beginning, right? When I look at Ninja and what we deliver from an automation perspective, I really like to start with the building blocks. And really, it boils down to 2.5 things: a trigger, the automation itself, and optionally custom fields to help deliver more from both a trigger and an automation perspective. The custom field is definitely an optional part of this, but you need a trigger and you need an automation. That's really it. That's at the most fundamental level how Ninja delivers automation. We can do a little bit more than that. This would be super simplistic. This session would be over in 5 minutes if that's all I had to show you. But when I talk about triggers, what I mean is ad hoc deployments. A technician needs to push out an automation right now. It's a one-off thing. It's not something you're going to do over and over again. That's going and deploying a script or an automation. Then you have scheduled tasks, which are your ability to push out an automation on a schedule every Wednesday at 5 p.m. or once a month on Wednesday or Saturday at 2 a.m., whatever it is. I'm going to say Wednesday at 5 a lot. I don't know why. Scheduled scripts, which are using policies to deliver automations at a set schedule. And it's not necessarily a once a week thing. It could be the first time a device checks in. And then finally, the ones I think I find the most impactful and interesting are condition-based triggers. So detecting something changing and then delivering an automation based on that state change. So those are triggers. Then you have automations. These are the actual actions that we're going to take on your behalf. And there are a couple different options here. There are software installation automations. Those were introduced in our most recent release. Automation scripts. So whether you're importing scripts or writing your own new scripts or bringing in scripts from the script library. And then last, custom scripts, things that you're going to build yourself. Finally, we have custom fields. In this session here, we're going to go through actually setting up custom fields and then showing you how to read from and write to custom fields. These are an optional part of those building blocks, but they can add a lot of power, a lot of flexibility and a lot of insight and visibility into your automations, which make them really, really powerful. And so we are going to go through all of these different triggers, all of these different ways to bring in and use automations, and then how to get started with custom fields. Luke and Jeff will take it from there and actually build out some exciting automations for you. But we want to give you those building blocks. Now, before I jump into the actual platform, I did want to share this with you. This is when to use different automations. And I realize this is so basic, but it's a great way to start thinking about automations. And so particularly for people who are really new, I wanted to share this. So an ad hoc script deployment, that's when you want to take action right now. I'm an engineer, a sysadmin, a level 1 tech, and I just need to do something right now. It's an automation, in that I'm pressing a button and something's happening, but it's really simple, but you're going to use it a lot, right? I need to just deploy an application right now to this one endpoint. I'm going to use an ad hoc app installation in this case. Scheduled scripts are policy based, and if you're using Ninja actively today, you know that all devices in Ninja are managed by a policy, and that policy decides the holistic way that that device is managed. Scheduled scripts live within a policy, and they're a set of automations that you're going to deliver to an endpoint or all managed endpoints in that policy at a specific time or based on a specific state that the device is in. Then you have scheduled tasks. That's the same thing, but it's outside of policies. There's some really interesting use cases here, and really some broad time savings you can get back by using scheduled tasks, which really aren't tied to policies, which make them a lot more flexible. You have script result conditions, which are, again, this will happen within a policy under conditions. This allows you to run a script and then take action based on the result of it. It's cutting out the custom field part of, read and react that you get with custom fields. But it can be really powerful in that you can do custom monitoring and then automation delivery based on the results of that custom monitoring. Condition triggered scripts, as I said, those are my favorite. I think they're the most powerful. But that allows you to detect a state change on a device or something happening on a device and then take action based on it. You can get a lot of time back, and you can get really creative with those and really get your team some time back. And then last but not least, you have custom field triggered scripts. This is using custom fields for some kind of monitoring or as some kind of flag, reading what's in that and then taking action based on it, or even running a script and then writing to a custom field. So these are different ways you would use automation in Ninja, and I would say the most common ways that automations are deployed. So I'll stop with the PowerPoint because everyone hates PowerPoint and move over now to the NinjaOne platform. So I'm going to walk through automations first, funny enough, then triggers, and then custom fields. If at any point anyone gets lost, wants me to repeat anything, just throw that in chat, and hopefully Jonathan can come on and let me know. So let's get started with automations. If I go over here to administration, and then I go down to my library, this is where you're going to find your automations. Now, out of the box, we've got, 40, 50 automations that are built in. Some of these could be super helpful. Some of these you may never use, but we have these across Windows, Mac, and Linux, and providing some basic layer of functionality to everyone as soon as you get a Ninja account. We also have the ability to import Ninja created scripts that our out-of-box team is creating. I can do that by coming over here and adding an import from template, or just clicking over here on the template library. Thought I was going to have a problem there for a second. We've got about 100 importable scripts today, and we have an out-of-box team that's working on adding more literally every day. These are scripts that you can import with 1 or 2 clicks into your automation library over here, and then customize or use as needed. So if, for example, I wanted to import disable auto run, I just come here to import. I can see the script here. I can see all of the, an overview of the script and how to use it here. And then I'm just going to select a category, and I'm going to go ahead and import. This is saying, hey, make sure you know what the script is doing before you run it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and re-authenticate here. And just like that, this script is now in my automation library, and I can go run it. Super easy to import scripts here. And then once you have imported them, you can go and make adjustments and improvements as necessary. There are some great ones in here, like disabling auto run, disabling local accounts, enabling fast boot, joining or leaving a domain, modifying user permissions. There's a ton in here. If you haven't gone through this library, definitely check it out. All of these scripts are built by expert scripters. They are QA'd by our QA team, and they go through rigorous testing before you get your hands on them. So definitely check them out. Over time, we're hoping to upgrade these based on some new functionality that we have, and add more. So always check back to see if we have more. Now, there's another way to get automations into Ninja. If I want to go ahead and import from file, I can do that as well. In this case, it's going to bring me to my downloads folder, and I can, for example, upload that same disable auto run script here, and I can go ahead and add a 2 here, and then go ahead and save. I have to select my categories here. And I can go ahead and save that. Super easy to go ahead and get them in. You are going to see me re-authenticate a lot of times here, because anything script related, you do have to re-authenticate. So now I've imported one from a template library. I've uploaded one from another source. On that second one there, importing from other files, this is a great way if you're switching platforms, for example. If you can rip out all of your PowerShell scripts from your other platform and save them before you leave that platform, you can come in here and upload them en masse, and you don't have to start over. It can save you a lot of time, particularly when you're switching platforms here. Last but not least here on the, oh, sorry, I have 2 more. Last but not least, I guess, would be building your own automations in Ninja. So I'm going to start actually with creating an app install. So if I go here to installation, we now have this form where you can build out application installs and then save them into your app repository. So let's say install Brave. Let's say you want to switch everyone over to Brave browser. We can go ahead and set that up. It's going to be for Windows. It's going to be for all architectures. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose my installer here, upload it. I can set my category. So in this case, app installs. And then, let's say we want it to be silent. We're going to go ahead and add that parameter. Now, if I want, I can jump over here to additional settings. Because this is a browser, I probably don't have any helper files. But if it was something more complex, I may have some additional files I want to upload and reference from the installer. I would go ahead and upload them here, and they would be in the same folder as the installer. I can also add my custom icon here. Right here. And if I wanted to, I could run a script before and after. Again, this is a browser install, so probably doesn't make a ton of sense. I'll go ahead and submit. Again, re-authenticate. Good thing I've got that quick here. And I'm all set. It's going to upload it. It's then going to scan it for malware before it lets it into my repository. If it's still scanning, so I can see it under processing here. But if I come back over here and go to install application, I can actually see the ones that I have available to me. Obviously, I've only uploaded OS ones here, but this does work across OSs. So those are my software installation automations, and this is my software repository. I can use this software repository anywhere in the platform. So for ad hoc script deployments, scheduled scripts, scheduled tasks, condition-based automations, etc., all referenceable from here across my technicians as long as they have access to app installs. The other option we have here is to create a new script automation. So if I come down here and go to new script, I can now actually go ahead and create a new script. Now, I'm going to cheat here, and please don't judge me to Atom standards. I cannot promise that my PowerShell is good here, but I'm going to go and actually take this script that we actually have and dump it in here. Now, this is going to be a PowerShell script. PowerShell. This is for Windows and all. What I'm going to do with this script is actually create a local user. And the way we have it set up today, I've actually hard-coded a username and password in, and I have an expiration date here as well. This isn't super useful. Now, it's okay. It's sort of a one-off script, and every time I want to run it, I'm going to go back and edit it and create that user. But what we can do is we can actually make this much more dynamic. So what I'm going to do is actually come over here to script variables, and I'm going to add a script variable. And that's going to be string text here, and I'm going to make a username. And this is mandatory. I'm also going to add a password. And I'm going to make that mandatory as well. And then finally, I am going to do a set expiration date, and that's going to be a date. Expiration date. You can actually see up here what that field name is going to be called, and I'm going to set that to mandatory as well. And now that I've created these script variables, I can actually pull them into the script. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to delete admin and password here. And I'm going to use our control space capability here. And that was called username. And you see here, username script variable. I'm going to pull that in. I'm also going to pull in my password here. Again, script variable. And then I'm going to set password expiration date. I actually think that formatting is super wrong, but it is what it is. We're going to roll with it. So now I have these three variables pulled in here. And what we're going to do is at runtime, when we run this script, we're actually going to pull in these script variables based on what the technician entered and pull them into the script. So I'm going to go ahead and call this ITX create local user. And I'll show you what it actually looks like when I want to deploy that in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and save and authenticate again, of course. And we'll go and show you how to deploy that in just a second. So when we think about automations, those are all the ways that you can actually get automations into NinjaOne. Out of box, we have some. We have our template library. You can import PowerShell scripts that you have saved on locally or that you've pulled from a previous endpoint management solution. You can create your own custom automations, whether they be app installs or app runs or even custom script-based automations. And those are all the ways you're going to get your automations into NinjaOne. There are lots of resources we have to go and find PowerShell scripts. Jonathan dropped a lot of them into the chat earlier. We have our dojo, we have that GitHub repository that was shared. And then again, we are constantly adding more to our template library. But again, there are many situations where you're probably going to have to go and create your own. So now that we've gotten our automation or automations into Ninja, let's talk about how we trigger them. Now, one that you're going to use a lot, even though it's, borderline whether we want to call this an automation, I'm going to actually jump over to a device right now, and I'm going to actually show you the first one, ad hoc deployment. Now, I'm going to show you ad hoc deployment on one device or on multiple devices. Let's start with one device, and we're going to start with that automation that I just showed you. Sorry, that was probably pretty quick. I'm going to go up to the play button, run automation, and then in this case, I'm going to use a script. And we are going to pull in ITX here, create local user. Now, as I said before, those variables are now in this, what we're calling dynamic script forms. So we are going to run that script, but I need to create a username. So Peter Bretton's the username. My password is going to be password. And I'm going to set an expiration date. And let's say it's, whenever this is. And when I run this, this is going to pull those variables in and run that, create that user on this device. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run. Now, if I didn't expect that to go away, Peter Bretton, if I didn't put in a password and I, chose a date here and I try to run, you're going to see it is going to block me because that is a required field. So I'm going to go ahead and run that right now. And you'll actually see it running over here in just a second. Really, any script that Ninja deploys should run within 60 seconds. There's some kind of failure here. It looks like username conflicts with an environment variable. So my script isn't great here, but that's how it would actually deploy. And you'd see feedback right here. If it was successful, if the user was created, you'd see that as well. I'm going to jump over here to devices and show you how to deploy against multiple devices. We're going to choose a couple Windows devices here. Let's find 2 devices that are similar. I can actually go over here and do the same thing, right? Run automation. I can, let's say, install app in this case. It's going to bring me to that software repository. And let's go ahead and roll Slack out to those as well. So those are ad hoc triggers. The great thing about this is that, yes, you can do it against one, but you can do it against many. You're going to find many use cases for both of those, ad hoc deployment to individual devices or to many devices. The benefit there being, there is no constant attempt to run this, right? It just happens once and then we're done. This is really common in help desk scenarios or to respond to tickets. So you'll probably use this as an automation quite often. Let's move to scheduled tasks next because of where we are. Scheduled tasks combine a device group and an automation together so that you can take action against a group of devices on a schedule, right? So let's go ahead and actually create a group here. We're going to create a group of devices that, let's say, all Windows devices here that do not have Cisco Umbrella VPN loaded up. So I'm going to go to software or inventory here, and I'm going to say all software, that does not contain, I think it's called Umbrella, but let's pretend. I don't have that. I'm going to use Chrome because I do have that installed here. I'm going to pretend this is Cisco Umbrella. So all devices that don't contain Chrome in their software inventory. And now I'm going to save this as, no Cisco Umbrella agent. I am clearly lying, but I am going to go ahead and say that. This is now my dynamic group of devices that don't have the Cisco Umbrella agent installed. What's great about this is this will automatically update. If the agent gets rolled out to any of these devices, they'll automatically be pulled out of this group, and we'll only see the group, the devices that don't have Cisco Umbrella installed. So how am I going to use this? I'm going to jump over to admin here and go down to tasks, and I'm going to create a new task. So in this case, it's deploy Cisco Umbrella. No idea why I chose that application, but it is what it is. And we're going to use allow groups here. And we're going to say, we'll come back to that. We're going to find the target. In this case, we are going to use a group. And we are going to search for Cisco here. No Cisco Umbrella agent. So now we're targeting this group here. We could add others, but we're going to target this group. And we're going to say on a daily basis, every day at 9 a.m. forever, we are going to run an automation. And in this case, that automation is going to be to install the Cisco Umbrella roaming agent. And this will deploy every day. Now, again, this deploys, let's say it's successful against 80% of devices, the other 20% are offline. That 80% of devices that this was successful on are going to drop out of that group. And so the next day, it's only the 20% remaining that were offline the day before or that the install failed on that we're going to run this automation against. And you have some options here, you daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it may be, and you can set an end time and all of that and change the schedule. But the core use case here is I have a group of devices. I don't care what policy they're managed against. I want to take action against a group of devices, particularly a dynamic group of devices, on a schedule. And again, the core benefit here is that group is dynamic. If in 3 months a device drops back into the group, the roaming agent gets dropped off and the device is now not in compliance in this case, we are going to come back and reinstall that Cisco Umbrella roaming agent the next day when the schedule runs. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and go ahead and close. Next, we're going to move on to scheduled scripts. This is probably one you're all very aware of, but it is worth calling out as it is a very heavily used automation feature in Ninja, although maybe not the most interesting one. So I'm going to go into a policy and jump down to scheduled automation. Again, anyone who's not a current Ninja customer, the way we do policies in Ninja is that every single device in Ninja is managed by a policy and only one policy. And so this is the holistic group of instructions on how you want a device managed. One of those sets of instructions will be scheduled automations. So if I come here, I'm actually going to use a pre-configured example here. This setup new computer example is a pretty good one and a very common use case. In this case, we're going to use the schedule run once immediately. What that means is the first time the device checks in to this policy, we are going to run a set of automations and it'll never run again as long as the device is in this policy. So in this case, the first time a device checks in, we want it to meet certain configuration criteria. In this case, we want to have a standard local admin. We want to enable BitLocker, write BitLocker key to a custom field, set screen lock timeout, set UAC, and install Office, let's say. It could be any number of automations. It could be 1, it could be 13. It doesn't really matter. The good thing about bucketing them together here is that these will run in order and won't conflict with each other. If you have multiple run once immediately, they could conflict. And so putting them all in one bucket is a best practice there. I could add automations, I can remove them here, but the purpose is the first time a device checks into your policy, it's going to go through this configuration and it's going to get all of these automations. Now, there are lots of other use cases here as well. We could have regular cleanup on a schedule. So in this case, we're probably running schedule none. Let's say it's weekly, we want to run, these automations. We can go ahead and do that, Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. We're going to do that. We also have monthly, and you can choose the day of the month. System startup every hour on user login, whatever it may be. You have a lot of configuration here to run automations on a schedule. And like I said, schedule is a loose word here, but the really good use case outside of a standard schedule would be that run once immediately. The use cases you see on screen here are actually pretty common ones. Doing things like updating a custom field, or doing new device configuration, or some kind of daily maintenance like removing temp files or deleting, files in folders that build up, that sort of thing, or even just installing applications when devices check in. So again, they're not the most interesting automations, but they can definitely help you get some time back by automating regular device maintenance. So what I personally feel is the most interesting type of automation is condition-based automations. I'm going to start with this really super basic example here, the print spooler one, and then I'll show another one. When you create a condition, what you're essentially doing is you are creating a monitor. And you can monitor for almost anything on an endpoint. So whether a process exists, or a service is running, or the health and performance of telemetry of your device through telemetry data, or Windows events, or custom fields, there's almost an unlimited number of things you could monitor for. And once that monitor triggers, and so let me show a quick example here. Let's say it's I don't know, a Windows event. And let's say, I don't have one off the top of my head, 4572, whatever that is, that triggers. We can then take action against it. What does that mean by take action? We can create a ticket. We can notify technicians via SMS, email. We can push out a message to Teams and Slack and that sort of thing. We can take action there. But the more interesting outcome is that you can trigger an automation. So if I come down here to print spooler services down, what we're doing here is we're actually checking if the Windows service print spooler is down, and we could set some things here, like if it's disabled, we don't want to trigger this, and if the service is set as to manual, the same thing, and trigger again, and we can set to hey, let's make sure it's down for 10 minutes before we do anything, that sort of thing. But the core is, if this service isn't running, we're going to restart it. We're going to create an automation that starts a Windows service and then automatically remediates that issue. There are a lot of different areas you can use this exact mechanism to get your team time back, reduce the number of tickets, and provide a better end user experience. So expand from this very simple example into a lot of detection and response style automations. But another example that I like to use is, I'm going to actually create a new one here, and that's using software, right? So if software exists, or software doesn't exist, but in this case, AnyDesk, let's use that. We are going to automatically remove it. Why would we want to do that? Let's say I don't use AnyDesk as my remote access tool. If it suddenly shows up on a machine, there's a really good chance that's probably because someone's doing something they shouldn't, right? Let's say it's a threat actor who, used, a person to get AnyDesk installed on a device, or, someone is doing something that's not work related that they shouldn't be doing, right? There's no reason AnyDesk should be on my devices if I, as the IT team, did not install it. So what are we going to do? We're going to come over here and we're going to uninstall an application. In this case, we have an application name that's a dynamic script form. I'm going to go ahead and do AnyDesk, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that. We are going to detect that AnyDesk is installed, and then we are going to immediately try to uninstall it. There are a lot of different ways you can use this. This is an example I like. On the other end, we have plenty of customers who do the opposite, right? If let's say Sentinel, what is it? I think it's called the Sentinel agent is not installed, then okay, let's turn around and install application. Let's see if we have that in here. We don't. Okay, let's pretend we did and say install Sentinel-1 agent, same as FileZilla. They do the same thing, right? That same type of detection and response is a great use here. Again, a new device gets added to your environment. We want to see if Sentinel-1's on there. If it is, we do nothing. If it's not, we go ahead and roll it out automatically. So there are lots of ways you can use conditions to detect a state change and then kick off an automation. All right, so the last section here is on custom fields. I'm going to go ahead and close out of policies here. And man, I think I've spent more time in the admin section than I do on a daily basis on this webinar. So let's go ahead and jump into custom fields. To find custom fields, we go to devices. And then you see down here, we have role custom fields and global custom fields. I'm going to be lazy and use a global custom field. Global custom fields will apply to all devices of all roles and all types in Ninja. Role custom fields will only apply to specific roles, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create a device global custom field here. And I'm going to call that ITX and password, simply because of the automation I'm going to show you in a minute. We're going to set this to type secure. And then really important here, if you want to use a custom field with automations, you need to make sure that this field here is set to the appropriate option. Now, you want to limit this, right? If you're going to use this only to write to it, and then your technicians will have visibility onto it, set it to write only. If you do need to read from the API or I think that's separate here. Yeah. If you need to read from and write to, set it to read write, but you do want to, set the permissions appropriately. If it's set to none, you will not have access to this field from your scripts. So just remember that. I'm going to set it to read write for ease here. Again, we do have different permissions for API and for technicians. But let's say we want this read only. This is a password field. We're going to automate the rotation of a password field here. So the technician shouldn't have to edit it. So let's just set this to read write here and read only for technicians. We do want this to be a device custom field. And now we have our password here, our label here. So this is the name of the field, ITX password. Copy that just for ease of use here. And now I have that field on my devices. I can actually go to a device really quick here. And you're about to see like 10,000 custom fields, but I should be able to find it pretty quick. Here we go, ITX password. Now that's available on all devices in the global custom field section. So if I jump back to administration here, I am now going to create a new script. If I can remember where to do that, library, automations, new script. And I'm going to actually show you how to use this. So I have, again, another password here, another script here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that in. And this is, again, a PowerShell script. I'm going to set that to uncategorized into PowerShell and set this to Windows. Hopefully no one here only cares about Macs because I've only showed you Windows things here, but I am going to, I'm not recommending you do this way. This is just an example, but I'm going to create a random number. I'm going to add admin to it. And that's going to be my random password that I rotate through. Again, absolutely not best practice, but this is illustrative. Okay. So we now have a password that's admin plus some random number. I also am going to go ahead here and do a username. Username ITX because we had a problem earlier. I'm going to set that to mandatory. And I now have a username, which will not be username. It will be that environmental variable, username ITX. And we are going to take that username and we are going to set their password as pass in this case. So we've generated a password with a random number plus admin. It's called pass. We are going to write that password to a custom field and we are going to update the user. Now, for those of you who haven't done this before, how do I actually write to a custom field? I'm going to do Ninja property set. I am then going to find the fields. So in this case, it's going to be password. Oh, it's ITX password. Here we go, ITX password. And we are going to type pass into that. So that's what this is going to look like. So walking through this again, I generate a semi-random password. I write it to a secure custom field, and then I'm going to update the local user with that password. So what I can do with this, rotate local password and write to custom fields. That's what we'll call that here. What I can now do is save this. I again have to authenticate. And when I go to run this, let's say I have an admin on a device. What I can do is I can go into a policy here, and let's say it's Windows servers. I can come over here to my scheduled automations, create new automation. And what I'm going to do is rotate password. And this is going to happen weekly. Let's say Friday at 5 p.m. Why not? I'm going to actually find that rotate local password. This is going to be for my admin user, because of course I'm going to use admin as the username. And what I'm going to do is every Friday, I'm now going to rotate that custom, that user's password, and I'm going to write it to the custom field. I'm not actually going to show running this because it's unlikely there's a user admin on this on any particular Windows server, but that is how you could use this and create the custom field, run the automation, change the password, and then write to that custom field. Now, if I wanted to, I could read from the custom field as well, but in this particular use case, we're just going to write to it. Now, if I am a technician and need to get that password, all I would do is go to the device, go to the custom field. And obviously there isn't going to be information in there right now, but let's say it was this field. All I would do is I would go ahead and check this password. I do have to authenticate in. And I would then, wow. 1 second. Well, I am not sure why that's not working. I must be using the wrong account there. Let's say I was using the right account. I could then see the password here, and I could go and use it as a technician. So those are the building blocks for automation in NinjaOne. I'm going to just switch back here for a second. We have triggers, which again are things like ad hoc script deployments or app installations. We have our scheduled tasks, our scheduled scripts, and our conditions. We can then use those triggers to run all the different types of automations we have, primarily installing or running applications or custom scripts that you've either uploaded or imported or written yourself. And then where we need them, we have custom fields, whether that be to collect additional data from an endpoint and write to the custom field with local users or printers or other peripherals or something more complex. We can then take action based on data in that custom field through conditions and triggered scripts, or we can actually use the data from those fields for things like software licenses to mass deploy software, or in this case, to write a custom, a rotated password that's randomly generated to a custom field that then my technicians have access to. So those are really the building blocks here. And I think we can stop there. And if there are any questions, I'd love to answer them. If not, we can go back to Jonathan.
You have so many questions. You did a great job. Fantastic. I didn't want to interrupt your flow there. You're on a roll. So we have a ton of questions. There are some that I think you answered as you're going through some early questions, such as, can you run a script once against all machines, and the ones that are turned off will have it run once again. So I think you kind of covered that. Super quick question that I gave an answer for. I just want to confirm. Are all the scripts in the out-of-box templates PowerShell based?
I actually don't know that.
There's no, I guess to answer some question, like it's not as if Ninja does not have its own scripting language. Like we're utilizing, yeah.
We do not. Yeah, we use native languages that anyone can know and use in any system. It's honestly one of the things that I like most about our automation is we're not trying to lock you into a particular language. The only thing that are proprietary are like how you write to custom fields. Otherwise, we're using PowerShell, shell, batch, whatever you may know today. What I don't think you can do here is actually filter by type, by scripting language. So I would guess that most of them are PowerShell today, unless there are any Mac ones. So yeah, let's go to Mac. Here, for example, this will be shell scripts.
Okay, great. Here's a popular question that may be something you have to punt on, or maybe is a in the Discord, we always like to respond soon. But will Ninja ever allow us to see the output of a live running script? And we got a bunch of pluses to that.
While it's running live, that would probably be a Gavin question if he's coming on later.
He was already on, but Luke is going to be on next. So we'll pester him, and I've seen Steven lurking in the chat too. So
what I would say is my recommendation. So we use the same delivery mechanism for the remote PowerShell terminal. Let me show you what that looks like for those of you who don't know about it. For the PowerShell terminal that we do for our script deployment. So if you come up here and use your PowerShell terminal here, this is the exact same delivery mechanism as our script deployment. We're using our custom PowerShell functionality on the device to actually deliver both. So if you test it here, this is real time, right? So boring thing to type, but that is real time. And so what I always do when I'm building scripts, when I'm testing automations, is I go and try it in the PowerShell terminal. That way I can see the live output and then move it to the automation area.
Okay, great. And then there's a few questions around how can we uninstall applications using scheduled automation? I don't see any uninstall automation and templates. How do we add that?
Yeah, we don't, as far as I know, let's find this out together. But as far as I know, I don't believe we have an out of the box uninstall script. So let me just do a quick search. And let me make sure none of these are native. They are not. Yeah. And I think over here, let's go ahead and make sure it's the same. We do have an uninstall Mac app actually out of box, but because we don't have an uninstall out of box, you would have to go and get that PowerShell script somewhere else, check the dojo. Oftentimes there's so much stuff companies put into block uninstall or make it more difficult or ensure that that there aren't configuration files left over, that it's not as easy, it's not as standard to uninstall as install. So that would be one thing. We do have the native uninstall capability in Ninja. If you go to the software library, you can one-click uninstall. And I can actually show that here quickly as well. If I go at the top level, I know this isn't answering your question, so I'm not trying to punt, but for those who are unaware, let me go to Windows here. We have 6 devices with Adobe Air here. I can go ahead and hit uninstall, and that'll take that as well. But the way to do this from an automation perspective would be to build an uninstall script that has a lot of error catching and different ways to try it, and then run it on schedule using groups and tasks, right? Using a dynamic group that says if app X is installed, run uninstall app X. That would be the mechanism for doing it, but you need the script.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to open up the Q&A because there's a ton of stuff in here too. We got just a few minutes. Do you mind sticking around for 1 or 2 of these, Pete?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And everyone too, we'll make sure that if we can get to all these, if we can't get to them, we'll make sure to get you answers. We'll respond after this. Okay. Here's one. Do you have access to these now too? If I included a file in the installation automation other than the executable, and I need to add the helper file as a parameter, how can I reference it in the parameter section? Are these getting?
I'm gonna have.
Yeah. Okay.
More technical ones.
Yeah. Let's see. And then we got people asking for copies. I know, Pete. I'm sorry. I set you up for that one. Okay. Well, here's a good security one from Tony, right? When you send the username and password as variables to the script, do those variables ever get stored as clear text on the local device?
My understanding is no. I would want to get Gavin to answer that because I believe that was a consideration they explored before they built this. So we would have to check with someone much smarter than me to answer that. I know that is an example that the people who built this, that Gavin has used, and that's one of the reasons I felt comfortable using it. But we'd have to get a firm answer from him before I gave my thumbs up.
Gotcha. Recording, a lot of removing and installing. I think we covered a lot of the things here. If I'm wrong with that, everybody, let me know and drop something in the chat. We've got time for maybe one more question.
There's one that I've seen a couple times, and it's about offline devices. So let me actually show this. If I run a script against offline devices, let me actually find one here. We changed this UI, so I'm still learning it. Hopefully you all are learning it a little bit faster than me. I want to find a Windows device that is down, let's say. All right, we have Dr. Abed here. I'm going to run a script against this. So I don't care what it is. Let's say it's daily maintenance. I don't even know what that does. I'm going to run that against Dr. Abed. So that will actually go to a holding area because that device is offline. This may not happen quickly enough to show it here. Okay, it actually did. It'll actually go and sit right here under pending automations, and you'll see it here until this device comes back online and it runs. So yes, we will push scripts against offline devices. They obviously don't go to the device, but Ninja is waiting for that device to come back online and get a pulse, and then we will push that script out. I can come in here and go ahead and cancel those as well if I want to. But that's how the mechanism would work there.
Beautiful.
Pending automations, I don't believe do age out. I think you have to go in and cancel them, or kick the device out, and then they'll disappear from there.
Maybe this is the last one for us because I want to be keeping us moving here. But Timothy asked one right here at the end: can down devices not be marked as unhealthy? And Kyle's answering.
That's not. I wouldn't say that's the most relevant to this conversation, but we can go to. I haven't done this in a long time. Health status, and I believe we can change here. For example, server down. Let's make that unknown or healthy if we want. And then a down server will then be marked as that color, right? Green, yellow, or red, or gray. So that would be the way to make that change.
Okay, great. And we'll go back through everybody. We'll get the transcript here. We'll look back through questions, and we'll get back to you on them. Pete, anything, this was a session all about getting the basic core principles of Ninja. We've got some additional resources like the policies guide that you put together. I mean, obviously we can also call out the webinar series. We've got partner office hours that you host every month, that are great places to come in and be there with a lot of customers. You're asking questions, you're helping each other out. Anything else that you would point to people who are particularly getting started? Any additional resources?
Yeah, there are a couple resources I'd point out. Definitely partner office hours. Someone much smarter than me actually does all the heavy lifting there. I just get to introduce everybody. But Jeff Hunter, who you'll see next, actually, it's an open hour. Anyone can ask questions, and we walk through use cases. There is no prepared content. It's just come, ask questions, learn from each other. Definitely come to that one. I would check out our policy best practices guide. One of the things that I would want you to walk away from here is there's so much automation you can do, right? And as Adam said, start with the low-hanging fruit, use Ninja as an orchestration tool, build from there. But a lot of that comes from having a strategy going in and knowing how you want to build these things out. Ninja can become a mess if you don't think about this and how you want to orchestrate these things and build them out early. And so our policies guide, our policy best practices guide, for example, can really help you build a framework that's going to help you minimize like duplicating work and getting the most out of the platform in an efficient way. And so think about how you want to automate and use these building blocks before you really start diving in, or else you're going to end up with a bit of a spaghetti uh, issue here. So yeah, just start with a framework before you start building out these automations, and then use these tools as building blocks to go and start building your automations.